You are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Darrell Kinsey Jr. Welcoming you to the Lap the Extra Mile for today, April 14th, 2022. And folks, spring is attempting to get into here across the United States. Unfortunately, we have another cold front coming through. We're actually getting rain from it right now here in Maryland, so it'll be back in the 50s next week. Yay. But the racetrack is heating up, and so are apparently the tempers. And we're going to get into that in just a little bit. But before that, of course, I have to welcome in my co-hosts, Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward.
Good evening, fellas.
How's it going? The Italian national anthem kind of slapped this weekend.
Good to hear from you guys once again. And good to have Michael back. We did not have him last week. And hey, if you're listening live on the program, thank you so much for listening first. And two, make sure you get your comments in the chat. We will tweet them out. Got a full slate of races to get into. So without further ado, let us get started. And usually we will start with the Formula One World Championship because that is just tradition around here. But we're going to save that for a minute. And we're going to get into NASCAR first because if you saw that Martinsville Cup race, there was not a lot to talk about with
y'all stayed awake during that?
At all. I did not. I'll admit that.
Yeah.
I fell asleep with about 50 to go.
Bro, I passed
did y'all
away.
make it to the end?
No, I passed away.
I don't know. I think I stopped
Passed
watching.
away?
Yeah, I got so sleepy, I died in my sleep and revived.
Michael over there hitting a respawn timer over there.
Exactly. Heroes never die.
Anyway.
What we talking about?
Right, so we're talking about when did you fall asleep during the race. Chris, when did you make it to the end?
No, I think I got up partway through and went off and did some other things and came back midway through. I don't know. I don't remember. It was a very, very forgettable race.
Hey, Chris wasn't
there was
there
one
to cheer
lead
on
change.
Bowman.
Yeah.
There was one lead change. Chris wasn't there. If Chris isn't there cheering on Bowman, you're doing something wrong.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
One lead change. William Byron picks up the win. He becomes our first repeat winner of 2022, breaking a streak of, I believe, 7 to begin the year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, I actually know how to count. So he breaks a streak of 7 to start the season. But, of course, the race was... Well, I'm not even going to beat around the bush. It was the first bad race of the next-gen car.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
No,
But
Phoenix. Sorry, Phoenix. Phoenix was terrible.
the ending saved Phoenix. It moved it to a below average from a bad. But this
Okay,
race
Chris?
was just awful.
Fair enough.
But that doesn't mean it's time to go crazy with changes to A, the car, B, the track length, or C, when we race at Martinsville. This stuff happens. Not every race is going to be a barn burner. Most of them are going to be good.
Yeah.
But sometimes we get races like this where it felt like a huge waste of time. Unfortunately, that's what this race was on Saturday night, a rare Saturday night race this season. But no, that doesn't mean the next gen is trash and we need to completely throw out the formula and start over. Allow these guys a chance to work on, guys and girls, to work on the cars.
I felt like this was gonna happen. Like, there's no way there was gonna be like, it's gonna be good all throughout the season. I felt like there was gonna be that one bad race, and to go this far and this only being the one bad race, I think the next gen car is great. I just think maybe we need to look at the short track package a little bit more.
I think the short track package will have to be looked at. But the problem... Okay, so the races we've had on short track so far are Richmond, which realistically, that track puts on usually average races outside of a few barn burners and Spingate. The Martinsville Spring Race, I swear to God.
Still not letting that go, Honduras.
Yeah. No, I'm not. 13th chaser and everything. And maybe, Chris, you can help me with this. This Martinsville Spring Race, it's either the best race NASCAR has ever seen or a dud. And I cannot remember any races that are in between those two when it comes to the spring race.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with you on that one. And I feel like that's how a lot of tracks are with two dates. One of the two dates for every track with two dates always seems to be inferior to the other one. Martinsville being one, Bristol being one. That's why we ended up changing to the dirt race, because Bristol Spring was just, it didn't live up to what the night race lived up to. And I mean, Pocono had two dates, but those are never good anyway. But yeah, I agree with you. That
Pocono. Okay, I can't really stick up for Pocono.
You can't.
No, Pocono's garbage.
But you know what you can step up for? Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
Oh God, no.
Yep.
Chuck that place into the sun. Anyway, let me finish.
Texas.
Just throw the whole track away.
I enjoy Texas Motor Speedway as much as Daryl enjoyed the last lap of Abu Dhabi.
You went there.
Too soon.
Really went there.
Maybe that's just how bad Texas is.
You went there. Ladies and gentlemen,
and at least Daryl only had to live through that once. I have to live through this every year.
I've had to live through it 3 times. All at Lamar.
Oh, poor Toyota. Poor Toyota.
Hey, they eventually won the race, okay?
Yeah, but people will always remember that. But anyway, the point we're trying to get at is sometimes there's races that are just bad, and we just have to deal with it and not make wholesale knee-jerk changes, because that's how we got the playoffs, or the chase, which is a much better name for it, even though I like the chase. It was made of a knee-jerk reaction from Ryan Newman being boom or bust in 2003. And stages, where people complain that drivers just ride around till the last stages of the race, when that's pretty much what all the series do, because they don't pay the money till the last lap. You work yourself into a position to fight for it in the final stages, but you're not going to go hammer and tong on lap 50 of a 300-lap race. But now we got stages, so everyone can be aggressive for the entire race. But then everyone hates that because the cautions are artificial. Shut up. Just shut up.
I think
but anyway,
the thing with motorsports fans is where it's like you can't really please everyone.
I don't know if you can please anybody at this point.
No, you really can't. Someone's gonna be upset.
Yeah. So they come into Bristol Dirt. We'll talk about that later on in the program. But we don't talk a lot about the undercard series in NASCAR. That's mostly my fault as I run the place. But the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series also raced there, and we saw a lot of heated tempers. Hailie Deegan, who just had an awful week, we're not even going to begin to explain what happened with Hailie Deegan between the stalker and having to miss the Richmond race.
Yeah, the stalker, oh my God.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. And then she got roughed up by Johnny Sauter for no reason, and then some guy I've never heard of tried to take her out in the last 50 laps, and Hailie Deegan was ready to cut somebody by the time that race ended. And then we get to the Xfinity race, and Ty Gibbs and Sam Mayer get into a fist fight at the end of the race. And Twitter basically makes the Ty Gibbs heel turn. Now, I'm going to talk about... I got to step up for Mr. Gibbs here for a minute about the driving style. We're going to get to the fight, but as far as his driving style, this thing is burning me up when people try to bring up his Christianity as some sort of hypocrisy for him racing hard.
Why?
Folks, it says turn the other cheek in the Bible, not turn the other fender. I don't know where him being Christian and means he can't be aggressive on the racetrack came from. I don't understand that. I don't know where it comes from. And it's annoying. Stop it.
I already sound irritated. I'm already irritated with this.
Oh, yeah. The nepotism thing. Lord, baby Jesus. I hope all of y'all that harp on get Ty being here just because of his granddad keep the same energy when Owen Larson get in the cup, when Brexton Busch gets in the cup, when Keelan Harvick gets in the cup.
Austin Dillon.
Yeah, Austin and Ty.
Although
technically they keep the same energy for Austin. So,
but Chris, unlike Austin, Ty is actually good.
Ow.
I agree with you there, though.
I will begrudgingly agree. But anyway, him being a Gibbs is not why. It might be part of the reason why he's in the car. I'm sorry. But that's not why he's winning. The last name gives him the opportunity, but it doesn't give him the talent. And Ty Gibbs has a lot of talent, at least in ARCA and Xfinity. He's going to be in a cup car in the next couple of years because Truex is going to retire at some point. And if not him, Kyle's going to go off to be racer coach for Brexton. It's going to be one of those two that retire first out of that gang.
I would love to see Ty take over the 18, honestly.
He might as well, because that was the heel car when Kyle was in it. Ty might as well just continue the Joe Gibbs Racing heel 18 gimmick.
It's such a legendary car number, honestly. Even though it's like it's not one of those numbers you will recognize in motorsports, but I still feel like it has an important place.
Yeah, but people complain about all this nepotism. Why can't some hard-working, blue-collar, whatever, put in whatever short track guy that these folks are calling the flavor of the month this week? Why can't that guy get a ride? Because this sport is freaking expensive.
Yeah, clearly they don't know about how expensive racing really is. Like, average people like me and you wouldn't be able to get in.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it cost, what was that? Last time I heard a number, and this number's probably way off now, like $3 million a year for a cup sponsor just to break even.
Yeah.
In the trucks, outside the top five, you're not making any money. Most short track guys are not going to, first, they don't do social media enough. None of them do it down there to even get the sponsor's eye. And two, the money and return on investment is so tight. A lot of these folks just aren't going to make it unless you either move the needle on social media or you've basically grown up in the sport. And Ty's basically grown up in the sport. It's not his fault his last name is Gibbs. Okay?
Yeah.
He ain't got no control about his genetics or where he came out. That was between his mommy and his daddy. But just because he grew up in the sport and got some, admittedly, great opportunities doesn't mean he's not talented. And just because he professes a religion that in recent years, some folks have basically turned into a whole Nickelback situation where it's trendy to not like it, doesn't make it a hypocrisy when he races hard, because that's what he's paid to do. He's paid to win the race.
Yes.
Not be friends. And now I'm going to get off this soapbox and say that he probably should have taken off the helmet before he went over to Sam Mayer. But I have no problem with the fight.
Yeah. Also, you know who else you can make this argument about, but it went completely south?
Who?
Bruno Senna in F1.
Okay, so he got with Caterham. Like, he didn't have a chance.
But in 2011 he got with Lotus because Lotus decided to sack Nick Heidfeld for some reason, and he got the seat, but he didn't perform well.
Yeah.
And then the next year he got with Williams, which was actually a decent car. That was the car Pastor Maldonado won the Spanish Grand Prix with, and still
I
didn't
keep forgetting
perform.
Pastor Maldonado won a race, by the way.
As an F1 fanatic, you kind of have to remember it when you're talking about the guy sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had opportunities, just couldn't go anywhere. But he found better opportunities in better sports. But it's still kind of the same scenario where skill doesn't transfer in your genes, is what I'm trying to say.
Pretty sure AJ Lee had a promo about this in WWE. But Chris, we haven't heard from you in a while. What's your take on the whole Ty Gibbs heel turn?
Kind of like what I said in our pre-show is that I support his actions with the exception of the failure to remove the helmet. Yeah. I think that that's a cheap way to avoid what's coming to you in a way. If you're going to be involved in a fight with someone, take your helmet off, and face it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all this is going to do is give him there's going to be a perception about him in the garage that this kid would could attempt to start a fight or something. And he's just going to leave his helmet on. You know what I mean? It's just
yeah.
It's people aren't going to respect him, and that's going to translate onto the track as well. Whether it is something that the other drivers are aware of or not, it is definitely going to change the perception of Ty Gibbs in the garage.
Well, it can't be any worse than what Twitter was at the end of the night on Saturday, but Twitter is Twitter. So.
Twitter is definitely Twitter.
Elon Musk will change that.
Maybe.
No, he won't.
Moving on.
Actually, can I just say something quick? So, Elon Musk says that he wants to buy Twitter to encourage, to discourage censorship, right? He wants a platform where, and he says for the sake of democracy, there should not be censorship, right? Would you guys agree with that or disagree? Because, and I say this, there were a large number of retweets, quoted retweets, saying that for the sake of democracy, there should be more censorship.
So my issue is...
These are verified accounts in the journalism. Some journalists, writers, people on the political spectrum, there are many responses saying there needs to be more censorship to protect the democracy.
So here's how I will protect. I'm going to have to protect myself here due to, my job, obviously. But this was a much simpler conversation to have before the rise of misinformation.
Yeah.
A lot of the troll, and we've seen it, a lot of the verified attacks by certain countries using social media has created a situation where this is a lot more complicated than it seems. And also, a lot of folks get way too high off this anonymity juice and think they can just say everything to anybody without recourse because they can't reach through the screen and beat their behind.
Yeah.
So I will say it's a lot more complicated than everyone is putting it. I know that's a non-answer, but for professional reasons, that's the only answer I can really give on the record, obviously.
Understandable.
Still a good answer.
Excuse me. So we're going to Bristol Dirt. I don't know about this race. Well, my thing with Bristol Dirt and my thing with NASCAR Dirt is it was a fun experiment, but I think I'm over it now. But yeah, I loved that game, by the way. But we'll see what happens this week. They're doing it at night. As long as we don't get an issue with the sight lines again, I think we'll be fine. But they're going to have to put a decent amount of water on that track, unlike how dry it was last time out.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. I love the idea of it, and I don't want to see them scrap it over one bad showing. I really want to see them give it an honest try, which is what they're doing. And I don't think anybody expected it to be the greatest race they ever saw the first time out. I mean, there was so much to learn about the car. Yeah, and you need a couple of races before you even understand, how the cars are going to react. I mean, it's going to take 3 to 4 races, and then you factor in the fact that we've got a new car. I don't look for this I don't look for this to be the most entertaining race of the year, but I think after a couple years of learning the car and having feedback from drivers and such, that it should turn into a good race. But my realistic expectations are that it's not going to be the savior of NASCAR.
Yeah. So we will see how things go this week. That'll be on Sunday night on Fox, where you can see that dirt race. And folks, well, you should know this by now, but the world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization, because players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance. If you love your sport, you may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. Follow the SoCal Warriors on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, and Facebook Southern California Warriors. So we'll be back when we return on the other side. We are going to talk about the Australian Grand Prix, and it is time to panic. If you're Red Bull, I believe. I'll explain why. On the other side of this break, here on The Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of thunderous spikes? Then I have the show for you. Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with lists of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world sports themselves and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for the defining moment with me, your boy Larry, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
Hello and welcome to the Soccer Scoreboard Show with your host, Gabriel Montoya. This is the show for soccer, football fans, or whatever you call the beautiful game. Every week I tackle the latest and greatest news from around the soccer world. From the English Premier League to the World Cup to MLS, Liga MX, and more. You can listen to the Soccer Scoreboard Show and our lineup of fantastic guests every Friday at noon here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
And we are back here on the Extra Mile IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Daryl, Michael, and Chris with you this evening. We're going to get into the Australian Grand Prix here, which was, again, won by Ferrari. Charles Leclerc picking up the win. On the other side, Red Bull, well, that reliability blip that we thought was just a blip is now a concern as Max Verstappen, again, doesn't finish a race, and this is not good at all for his first ever championship defense. 2 out of the 3 races this season, he has failed to finish. It's put him well back in the points. He only got through 38 laps this time in Australia. Chris, you're a resident Red Bull fan, so I'll throw it to you. What is your panic level at this moment?
0. Because we won at Saudi Arabia, and we haven't raced obviously in a couple weeks. I don't know what you guys are talking about with Australia. I couldn't for the life of me think you guys must have seen or heard something I haven't, because the next race after Saudi Arabia is obviously in Italy. So I'm not really sure.
It was a special testing operation.
Yes, that's all it was. That happened to pay points. I'm not hitting the panic button yet. We're 3 races into a 23 race season, I think it is this year.
Yeah, for some reason.
So, I mean, we're talking not even a third of the way through, or a quarter. Mm-hmm. We're not even a quarter of the way through. So, are we even a fifth of the way through? Maybe close.
Don't make me do math.
Yeah, I don't want to either. But but for that reason, I'm not hitting the panic button yet. Now, give me another DNF or two, then yes, I'm panicking. But this is what we said about Mercedes last year. What, between weeks races like 6 and 12, we were like, Mercedes is shooting themselves in the foot. It's time to panic. It's time to panic. And then, coming in, they go on quite a streak. Coming into the last race of the season, we're tied. And meanwhile, just a couple weeks or months earlier, we were talking about how it's panic and Red Bull's running away with the title. So at this point, I'm not hitting the panic button yet. The only thing that concerns me is I was listening to the Missed Apex F1 podcast, and they actually had a really good interview with Will Buxton that I was actually listening to as I was cooking dinner tonight. And Ferrari has upgrades ready to go. They just don't have the incentive to bring them out yet, which is concerning to me and should be concerning to everybody else.
And again, Chris,
Ferrari
talks
Go
a
ahead,
lot
Michael.
I'm about to curse here in a second. Then again, Chris, Ferrari talks a lot of shit and doesn't deliver, so I wouldn't worry.
They do, but if they would not have incentive to bring out any upgrades right now, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's touching
Their
it.
concern is we're coming into the sprint. I forgot we're doing a sprint qualifying nonsense this week.
Correct, and they feel that they have no incentive to put an upgrade on the car with the sprint race this weekend.
Yep.
That was the direct quote out of Will Buxton, which is concerning. And so, at this point, as the resident Max fan, I'm very worried. But I'm not hitting the panic button yet. And the Constructors Championship is still very much in play. And realistically, the drivers' one is too. I mean, Leclerc has a pretty commanding lead, but as we all know, leads can fade pretty dang quickly. And I would be uncomfortable having a 20-point lead going into the last race of the season, right? Yeah. Just because anything can happen. I'd be uncomfortable with a 25-point lead going into the last race of the season. Because you just never know what's going to happen in any given race. And therefore, I don't think that at this point in the season, anybody has, except for hopefully McLaren, has hit the panic button at this point. Which McLaren actually had a pretty good showing on this past weekend.
Yeah, they were 5th and 6th, so good on McLaren to finally showing up to the start of the season.
And I do just want to say a huge hats off, and I think you guys will agree, to Williams and Alex Albon. They played a crazy strategy, 57 laps on one set of tires. They come home 9th, I think it was 10th. So they grabbed a point, and anybody who watches Drive to Survive, especially season 4, you know how critical that 1 point is. I mean, George Russell was in tears, could barely talk over 1 point, and we're three rounds into the season, and Williams has already got a point. I mean, just hats off to them.
I think that was definitely a staple. I'm sorry to cut you off, bro. I think that was a staple saying, we can run with these guys.
Absolutely. And you saw, actually, there was something that I had seen that, like, Leclerc didn't realize that Albon was on one set of tires the whole race, and then afterwards he's like, holy shit, that's awesome. I think I saw it on TikTok or something. But
that's
that's
absolutely mental that he kept those tires together for 57 laps, especially when the hards were only rated, I think, somewhere in the 40s.
40. I think it was 40 flat.
You know who else is really good at that can pay off for somebody later? Sergio Perez.
Yep.
Perez is really good at saving his tires.
Yeah, but huge hats off to Williams. That's awesome. Great result. Much needed points. And Aston Martin, we're looking at you now. You're the problem child.
I hate to hear you say that.
Another not good weekend for Aston Martin. I mean, they did have. I mean, their best moment was Vettel on the scooter, and they got fined for that.
Yeah.
People are complaining about their pace car apparently being too slow. Stroll and Latifi had. I don't know who you consider caused that, but there was an unfortunate meeting of the Canadians in qualifying, and Vettel wrecked out of the race after 22 laps. So this was an Australian Grand Prix to forget for Aston Martin, and with how competitive the midfield is, that's a team that's got to have the panic button on 10, because they might not score the way things are going, especially they're still struggling with their car, much like Mercedes. The other thing is the Mercedes is at least good enough to still continue to be 5th and 6th. This Aston Martin is going nowhere fast, much like the safety car.
I still think
It's a turtle.
I still think it's crazy that this was Racing Point.
Is the operative word.
This was Racing Point, guys.
This is Lawrence Stroll's team now.
Yep.
Oh man, they got a new leader, and it went to hell. Oh god.
I mean, the previous leader did was do a little bit of tax evasion. I mean, the team was running well. I mean, who doesn't fudge their taxes?
Who really owned that team at the end? Was it I felt like it was Perez, Loki.
I just say that. I think it's hilarious that F1 put out a real, actual statement in regards to Max Verstappen calling the pace car a turtle.
I'm mad they had to do it. Like, why? Who was sitting there that day and said, you know what, we should probably deal with this.
Right? The driver spout off about absolutely everything, and you pick this one thing to put out a formal statement about.
They be complaining.
Of the hundreds of things that you could have picked to respond to, you respond to the pace, the speed of the pace car.
By the way, that statement came out a heck of a lot faster than why did Masi screw up the safety car rules. Just gonna toss that one out there.
I gotta agree with Chris. These drivers do be complaining a lot.
They complain about everything.
About the safety car all the time going too slow.
It's a safety car.
I mean, they complain about the Mercedes safety car too. So I don't know why they thought this was the one we need to put out an official statement about.
Probably because Lawrence Stroll wrote him a check to do it.
Probably.
Who was that helping? You guys are in last. And you're a factory team, by the way.
It helps the name.
I guess.
They'll be Audi, Aston Martin in the next 4 years.
I'm still looking forward to Red Bull Porsche. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
me too.
That should be fun to see, as we did get some updated news from Chris about Porsche and Audi's potential involvement into the sport. It looks like Porsche Red Bull is going to be the way to go, and Audi looks like they're going to develop their own engines to deal with whatever team they decide, which is interesting.
They don't want to just develop engines. They want their own factory team.
Which is interesting because that comes up on the heels that they may be shuttering the operation on the LMDH car and just letting Porsche do that by themselves. So that could play a part. I'm not a mind reader, and I do not know Dr. Ulrich, so I cannot ask him. But that seems to be if that program is not ending, or if that program is not going forward, making their own factory team in Formula One would be a good reason why.
I'm not mad at that. Audi's been dominating WEC for years. I wouldn't be mad at that.
Just what I don't understand is you have Audi and Porsche, who are both owned by Volkswagen, coming in with two completely separate strategies and fighting against each other. Now I understand, but like at the same time, when the Volkswagen group say like, let's do one or the other, like let's not pour double the resources in and then have infighting. You know what I mean? It just seems like there's a conflict of interest that's going to pop up somewhere in that.
It's weird because Audi and Porsche raced each other in WEC for years.
Yeah.
And although you could kind of tell the relationship was amicable between the two teams, mainly because they're both German. They would go hang out at each other's victory parties and after Le Mans. But it is weird that they would have the two brands go up against each other. But I guess in the public consciousness, the two brands are distinct enough to where you can get away with it.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a rivalry when it comes to the German manufacturers.
Yeah, I just wish BMW would get on board because they come up and then fade away. Then they race and then they go away. Then they race and then they go away. It's like, can y'all please stop being hot and cold and just stay around for a while, please?
Yeah, BMW Sauber was my favorite team.
I love that team.
And then they left.
BMW Williams was really good too.
Yeah, they were. No, another team that was also starting to get up there, Toyota, and then they left.
Toyota left way too early.
Yeah.
You cannot change my mind.
They actually had a decent season in 2009, and I was just like, "What? Why are you leaving when you're doing this good?"
Yep. So Formula One will be on are they not going on a break, or are we racing next week? Let me check. 'Cause I'm looking at the schedule.
Who's that?
Formula One. So we're going to go on a little bit of a break. They will be back April 22nd through 24th at the. Give me a minute.
Say it 2 times fast too.
The Formula One Rolex Gran Premiero de Made in Italia di Emilia Romagna 2022. I'm not saying that anymore. The Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. I don't know why they just don't call this a San Marino Grand Prix. That'll be the 22nd through the 24th of April. You know, you can watch that commercial free on ESPN. And there's been a lot of conversation about getting more commercial free races on American television. Somebody's got to pony up the money, obviously. I would be for it. You know, we want to see all the green flag laps as things are going. And if there's a sponsor willing to pay for all of these teams, for all of this TV time, please step up because it's a great return on investment if Mothers has decided to do it for Formula One.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the way that it's looking for Formula One is that commercial-free broadcast might no longer be a thing with the new contract, because as you guys know, ESPN got the broadcast rights for essentially nothing, and because Mothers ponied up the $5 million that was essentially the equivalent of what ESPN paid for it, they went commercial-free. But ESPN is reportedly seeking $75 million. Now I don't know if that's per year or if that's for a short term, like a 2 or 3 year deal. But say goodbye to commercial free broadcasts unless you download through like the Formula One app or something. There's commercial free racing, but
you're gonna need multiple sponsors to make that happen.
Correct.
And
but
I don't know if there's going to be a group of sponsors that would want to partner up like that.
I think there should be a way for commercial-free broadcasts, and I think that should be across all motorsports too.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of people who would be willing to pay, you know, a subscription fee, whether it's like $20 a month or something, or 30, 40. I don't know. I don't even know what I'd be willing to pay, but to just not have to watch commercials in broadcast. And I don't think with NASCAR, I don't think we get away with that with commercial-free broadcasts until the race is shorter, which now I can officially say Dale Jr. is on board with.
Here's what I will say. My thing about the shorter races is this. I'm not going to go if they're going to be heavily shortening the races to under 3 hours, because I'm not going to burn up that gas to see a quick sprint race and then come all the way back home. But if NASCAR came out today and said, we're going to start our own streaming service for like $50 a month with like all the classic broadcasts and some other, documentary stuff and commercial-free races, I'd pay it. I would absolutely pay for that.
Yeah, I'd pay for
even
that
if
too.
it's a little bit delayed, because the commercials, they get a bit much sometimes.
They really do.
So it's something I would explore, and hopefully they do explore it. Another thing that was explored was Long Beach, as the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach wrapped up with Joseph Newgarden leading 32 laps and capturing the win. Roman Grosjean gave it a heck of an effort at the end to try and get by Grosjean. Nothing to it, and ending up in the second position, but a great run for him. And I think we can say, I think we threw the dirt on him a little bit too early when the Haas thing fell apart, because Roman has gotten in these Indy cars, and he's shown he's still got something in the tank.
Yeah, I felt like Roman. I feel like F1 drivers, when they go to IndyCar, they just it's a lot more, I want to say, fun for them, and it's a lot less car dependent, so they can actually show their skill.
Well, you go in knowing you got a chance, so
yeah, and they race a lot harder in there, I feel.
And Joseph Newgarden also picked up the points lead, as Scott McLaughlin could only manage a 14th place finish after starting in the 9th spot. So not a good day on the streets of Long Beach for Mr. Scott McLaughlin. And it wasn't a good day for everyone's favorite former NASCAR champion, Jimmy Johnson, or a good weekend, as he found himself in the tire barriers and unfortunately fell afoul of rule number 1 in IndyCar. If you're going towards the wall, take your hands off the wheel. Fortunately, Johnson picked up a broken wrist, but he does plan on competing in Alabama as well as the open test next week for IndyCar at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as we get ready for the Indy 500, which apparently only still has 32 races, so IndyCar is dying. Everyone panic, everyone panic.
Everybody scream, everybody scream.
So I don't know if you guys got a chance to see any of that race. I was actually at a baseball game watching the Bowie Bay Sox, so I caught the tail end of it on the IndyCar app, but it sounded a lot more exciting than what most Long Beach Grand Prix are.
I didn't watch it, nor did I really see anything other than I checked to see how I did in nearest the win.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about all I did.
Michael, you get a chance to watch it?
Yeah, I watched some of it. It was okay.
Yeah.
I need to do better in nearest to win, though, because I'm looking like Aston Martin right now.
Yep.
Well, Daryl's looking like Ferrari.
Yeah, we'll see how long this lasts, because the cliff is going to come at some point.
I'm looking like McLaren.
Yep.
Hey, you had a bad start, but you're getting better right now.
What's the... No, I had a good start, and then I fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
What's the points now, Daryl? I don't even want to ask. I'm scared.
I'm trying to find our thread again.
I
got
know
like
I'm
1,500 Facebook messages, so give me 1 second. I'm going to try and find it.
I'm so scared.
But the thing is, it's another one-race weekend because we've got no IndyCar, so it's just NASCAR. It's a dirt race. Dirt race, NASCAR. I'm just going to call my shot. I'm taking Kyle Larson. So, just going to put that out there. Unfortunately, Chris, both you and I took Verstappen for the Formula One race. That didn't work out.
That was a mistake.
Yeah. So, we don't have an update on the points tally this week, but it's just NASCAR this week for nearest the win, which is Bristol Dirt. I'm going to take Larson. Chris, Michael, who you got?
Chris, you can go first.
I don't know, because I want to say Christopher Bell, But last year, Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson exited the race in the same 2-car incident. So I'm not sure how I feel about that this year.
Also, Bell hasn't shown up this year, I think.
Yeah, but he's and pardon my French, he's a hell of a dirt racer.
Yep.
Probably one of the few that can best Larson in a dirt car. Yeah, screw it. I'm going to take Christopher Bell.
For me, he did surprisingly well in the first Bristol Dirt race. I'm going to take Daniel Suarez.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
That is not bad. He could be a dark horse. He should have won that race by all respects last year.
Really feel bad that I'm voting against 23-11, but, it is what it is.
Ross Chastain was looking really good at Martinsville there for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
He has really benefited from being in that team. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. I don't know what it is different about. I don't know if it's the new car or something with the new team, but Ross Chastain has really been the guy to watch and will definitely win the most improved as far as the popular opinion goes. I mean, he's just really shown up this year.
Yeah, he is really if there's one person that's benefited from this new car, it's Ross Chastain, and he's finally getting a chance to show that he's got some talent, and it's basically CGR. They basically took all that team and integrated it with the 99, and all the pieces just fit together incredibly well. Unfortunately, that's not the same thing that's going on for the other new team, 2311. The less said about that right now, the better, but it's working for them.
Just out of curiosity, Daryl, where is Ross Chastain in the point standing right now? I mean, I'd have to imagine he's top 10, closer to top 5.
Ross is 5th.
Okay, I think that's.
And he's locked in from the Coda win, so he's going to the playoffs.
That top 5 feels right. Who's the top 5 right now?
So top 5 are Chase Elliott on 288, Ryan Blaney 3 back, William Byron 12 back, Joey Logano 27 back, and then Chastain 42 back are your top 5.
We don't talk about Toyota.
Yep, no Toyotas in the top 5. First Toyota is Martin Truex, 7th, 51 back of the leader.
Joey Logano's a surprise for the top 5 right now.
Mm-hmm. He's run worse than that 5th place points number shows.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, he must be collecting some stage points or something because he has not been finishing. He's not been putting down top 5s consistently this season.
He's got 4 top 10s, only 2 top 5s. He only led 34 laps. He hasn't really. It's just a consistency thing, like Martin Truex Jr., because he hasn't really been flashy at all.
Yeah,
but he's just been able to get those bonus points to stay up there.
It makes sense.
Meanwhile, Kevin Harvick is 9th, 66 back. Kyle Busch is 67 back.
Where's Brad Keselowski?
Let's find out, actually. The 6 is 31st.
So he moved up a spot.
196 back. He is second to last of the full-time drivers.
Who's last?
Cody Ware of everyone who's driven full-time, 68. BJ McLeod has 60. And that's all the guys that have made appreciable starts this year. So that penalty ended their season effectively.
I still want to know what they found, what happened.
So from what the two teams said, it was something with how they repaired the bumper cover or the rear bumper cover that I was about to say Formula One that NASCAR did not like.
Oh.
So that was the situation there.
But it was just repairing it. It wasn't like something they brought to the track.
Well, they repaired it and brought it to the track. That's the thing. It was on the car when it got popped.
Okay. So it wasn't like a race day fix.
No, it was something they did at the shop.
Oh yeah, that's a big uh-oh.
Yep.
You can't be doing that.
Nope. So we'll see if, well, I will say we'll see, but that team's not going to point its way back in. They've got to win.
Yep. Absolutely.
And even they've got to win and avoid any more trouble.
Yeah. Which, who knows if they can win?
I don't think so. I mean, that team has struggled so far, but we will have to put faith that they can get something together.
Yep.
So for now, we are going to get ready to say goodbye. And folks, remember, first off, the draft competition, you're running out of time for that, is right around the corner. Remember, if you want to enter, you are going to predict all 32 of the first round picks, no trades, modifications, or tricks. And the participant with the best mock draft will receive a shout out on all of our shows and their choice of an iSports Radio hat or shirt. Get your posts into, or get your mock drafts into Mike Pat. You can send those to @Let'sWine_IE Sports Radio. Good luck to everyone for that competition. And of course, for the last 7.5 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we continue to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you head over to the website, iSportsRadio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers, starting at just $5 a month, which gets you a shout out on all 32 of our shows. And higher tiers include iSports Radio merchandise, access to the podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. With that said, it's time to throw the checkered flag on this episode. Remember, keep it locked. Oh, before I forget, make sure you keep it locked to our Twitter, iSports Radio. We are doing polls over there. This week, we asked you, who did you think would score more points at the end of the season between the Mercedes duo of Lewis Hamilton and George Russell? 67.3% of you said Lewis Hamilton would take the win in the points over George Russell. That was out of 385 votes. Thank you so much for everyone for voting in this week's poll.
So, and 66% of your hosts said George Russell would score more points.
Yes. So it is definitely a disconnect, or not a disconnect,
I'm
but it is
called
different.
out right now.
I'm calling it out too. George Russell scores more points than Lewis Hamilton.
Yep. Well, the way it's going, he's going to. I mean, the car just isn't suiting Lewis's strength, so it looks like Russell may very well score more points, but make sure you keep it locked to our Twitter. We're going to have more polls like that during the year, and of course, keep it locked to all the iSports Radio social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you missed any episode of any iSports Radio show, you can check it out online wherever you get your podcast, and of course the YouTube page, iSports Radio, which has a repository of every show we've ever done. So go over there and check out the history of IE Sports Radio. And thank you all so much for listening. And of course, our Twitters, I'm at DKJr12, Michael's at Michael_Wart25, Chris is at Fiji Sims. Get at us on Twitter if you want to talk during the week or during one of the races, of course. And that being said, it's time for the checkered flag here on iSports Radio. For Christopher and Michael, I'm Daryl. This has been The Extra Mile. We will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.